but a lot of the people I've talked to, we talk about movies. Idiocracy comes up, and they're like, "Bro, we're living Idiocracy," and I'm like, I don't think it's as bad.
But not yet, at least.
So here's the interesting thing about the IQ test: you have to be good at taking tests.
Oh, it's true.
Right? I know a lot of people that are so smart.
Same, bro.
That hate or bad at tests.
Yeah, they don't test well.
No,
they understand and know the information. They are just not great at testing on it.
Emotional intelligence and well-being scores have declined for 4 consecutive years. 6 Second CEO Josh Friedman says people are more volatile, less likely to be able to navigate emotions. They're less likely to feel connected to empathy or a bigger sense of purpose. Ultimately, if you can see a future that is good and you can perceive that and you can pursue that future, then you are going to be in a much better place.
You are enlightened.
Welcome to the Cam and Joe Show. My name's Joe with my good friend Cameron.
What's going on, big dog? How are you, man?
Dude, so good, bro.
You know what I love?
What?
I love that you and I, before we started shooting, we were literally just talking about, I believe that you are like my longest tenured friendship.
Yeah.
Like we've known each other since,
second grade.
Second grade.
Like I was around first grade, second grade.
Yeah.
And then third grade. Or fourth grade is when I started going to school with you, but I was homeschooled, but we were still hanging out because of church.
Yeah. And we gave you the 2 years, like the trial period to make sure that we're okay.
Do you pass?
Everyone's like, homeschool. We're like, we're not sure about that. Homeschool ain't what it used to be. You would like eat lizards and stuff. And I was like,
I never ate them. You remember when I sold them?
That's just what the word on the street was.
You remember when I sold them?
Yes, I do.
I got in trouble so bad.
I remember one time we were playing tetherball.
Yeah.
And so one of the like upperclassmen like hit the ball really hard and it came around and whacked you right in the face. And that was the first time I saw you like you were going to murder somebody. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Girl, don't do it. It's not worth it.
He's got a little rage. He's got
a tether.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that. And I was just like, oh, he's seeing red.
Yeah. I've chilled out a lot. Older brothers, bro, 3 of them. So there's that amount. So if you're first time listening, we're good friends. Go ahead and hit the like, subscribe, follow us. Let us know. We're actually going to be talking about is there a decline in intelligence?
It's scary.
Because I've read some articles, I've seen some stuff, and I think I found something interesting.
Yeah.
That ties all this stuff together. Yeah. So just off of front face.
Yeah.
Do you feel like people are not? And we're not here to insult, by the way.
Sure. No,
we're not here going. People are stupid.
No.
But do you believe?
Open conversation.
Yeah.
Do I feel okay? Here's what I'd say to it. I would say, COVID didn't do us any favors.
Sure.
Right. I feel like people now have a harder time than they ever have simply communicating.
Yes.
Like eye contact has gone out the window, like completely.
Oh, for sure.
People's abilities to like form and structure sentences has like declined. And I feel like as we lean more and more into artificial intelligence.
Sure. Yeah.
I feel like our own, it kind of allows us to take a back seat.
Yeah.
Right.
I could see that.
And allow AI to drive. Like, And we can kind of get lazy. Like I can either structure these paragraphs as best as I can and speak with as much prose as I can, or I can just pop onto ChatGPT and make it look like my own.
Sure.
Right. So the lean into the lazy allows us to take a cognitive backseat, and if we're taking a cognitive backseat, societally, I don't know if that's a win. I don't know if that's great.
You ever seen the movie Idiocracy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Almost every person I've talked to, not almost every person, but a lot of the people I've talked to, we talk about movies. Mm-hmm. Idiocracy comes up, and they're like, "Bro, we're living Idiocracy," and I'm like, I don't think it's as bad. But
not yet, at least. Sure. There's fragments of it.
But so there's different measurements for intelligence. Mm-hmm. And often what we end up looking at as direct intelligence is like IQ. Mm-hmm. And so what I was reading this morning from a couple psychologists was IQ is only one part of the factor. It's emotional intelligence that is the other part. And so IQ is only
a scary one.
Yeah, IQ is only 20% of an individual.
Got it.
80% is emotional intelligence for the average person.
What are they calling emotional intelligence?
Empathy, compassion.
Got it.
Mercy.
Yeah, that's. I don't want to say it's gone, but yeah.
No, so I got I'll pull up a couple.
We're in a world now that everybody's just
so
focused on themselves.
I would go on to the debate that I don't think that we've gotten less intelligent. I think we've gotten more callous. Like, sure. I genuinely believe intelligence is still there, and we have all the capabilities.
Of course.
But I think the reason of why we're doing things is different. It was like, why did we fight in World War II? Oh, well, we've got to stop this evil, right? And we're stronger together. Yeah. Like, I love looking up the speeches at that era. And
oh, my God.
You just feel like America. You know what I mean?
Yep.
The speeches now, they're very like...
I've heard better. Watch Independence Day.
Or watch the movie My Fellow American about a Democrat and a Republican guy that hate each other, that are best friends, getting an assassin's trying to kill him. And their speeches, they rip each other off from their speeches and crap on each other. It's an old comedy from the 90s. Awesome. But it reminds me more, those speeches in that comedy movie reminds me more of what actually is.
Scary.
It's like, but is that because I'm callous?
Sure.
Is that because I'm hyper aware of what's going on?
I think so. And I think a lot of what you'll find today is because we are all hyper aware of everything, right?
Yeah.
So like everything is not like when people have the debate of like Jordan versus LeBron, like MJ versus LeBron, and people be like, oh, well, Jordan would never have done this and that outside of the basketball court. You don't know, because there was no freaking Twitter or X or Instagram or Facebook up as following his every move.
Absolutely.
Right? So you have more of an opportunity to hate on a LeBron James because you know everything the dude posts or says or da-da-da-da-da-da.
Well, and certain thought, and the reality is certain thoughts shouldn't be said public.
Sure.
We all have this deep, there is that id inside of all of us that we have thoughts. It's like, oh, is that an inside? That's an inside word. Yeah. I can't say those.
No, we live in a world where you can get canceled in 2020 for something that you put on the friggin' MySpace in 03.
It was one time, okay? I didn't know my pronouns at the time.
Exactly.
So here's an article from Psychology Today. Are Americans really becoming less intelligent? Maybe, but IQ also can't go up forever, which is 100% the truth. Like, we can't be like, if our scale is, I want to say the IQ scale goes up to 200 or maybe 300. If that's it.
You should look that up.
To prove my point, though, because I'll continue reading through this. But if that's the case, then you're going to eventually hit the peak.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then even then, what we would say isn't as intelligent would also change because, like you were saying, with technology and different things. So I think that there's a case in this. So let me just read a little bit of this. Since the early 1900s, intelligence has been increasing by approximately 3 to 5 points per decade. This is likely due to many factors, including better nutrition, increased access to education, and familiarity with test taking. So here's the interesting thing about the IQ test. You have to be good at taking tests.
Oh, it's true.
Right? I know a lot of people that are so smart.
Same, bro.
That hate or bad at tests.
Yeah. They don't test well.
No.
They understand and know the information. They are just not great at testing on it. They can give a lecture on it.
Yeah.
But they can't when it comes time to circle some bubbles or click some bubbles. The pressure, the anxiety. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I'll use my son David for example. He has his teeth are caved in a little bit. Okay. So when he goes to speak, he can't his tongue keeps hitting his teeth. So he has a hard time saying certain words. So spelling is out. It's not something that he's good at, but his memorization skills are amazing.
Yeah.
But time is not on his side. Mm-hmm. So he's trying to remember how did I spell that? And then writing it out. So he does not good on testing. Even though he can memorize it, he's not time sensitive to stuff.
Yeah, sure.
But you give that kid, and you're like, hey, man, can you figure out this puzzle? Okay, within seconds. Here you go. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, there's wisdom there.
I'm curious to see if they were to make a physical IQ test. Not one that you do on paper, but like, all right, here's a bunch of puzzles laid out.
Yeah.
How fast can you go through? And they're from colors to analyzing to patterns.
So it's not just the test taker that's scoring high.
Yeah, because I think that we do ourselves a disservice.
100%.
Right?
100%. Especially those that are more tactile kinesthetic and they're going to be more feely.
Yes.
Right? They're going to score much higher.
Oh, absolutely. So the increase in intelligence over generations is well documented and has been termed by the termed Flynn effect.
Flynn effect.
The Flynn effect. So that's the increase on what we got. So however, recent research in parts of Europe and the US has started to see a plateau in intelligence scores and even reversal of this effect. For example, the recent study in the US found lower vocabulary scores in new cohorts. Shockingly, US college graduates in 2010s had lower vocabulary scores than their counterparts in 1970s. Thus, to comprehensively test for the Flynn effect in recent years, Dwark et al., I'm probably totally butchering that, in 2023, conducted a pre-registered study of almost 400,000 Americans, adults between 2006 and 2018. The researchers gathered cross-sectional data through synthetic aperture personality assessment projects, which was advertised online as a personality test. So it continues to go on.
Sure. It was advertised as a personality test, but it's actually testing there.
So then they end up looking, they're calling it the ceiling effect. If you believe people are smarter than you, then you'll never, right?
Correct.
Right. Intelligence cannot grow forever. The other one they have is media exposure may be responsible for lower scores. So if all you're doing,
getting into digital,
right? If all you're doing is, I just need to feed my brain.
And they said they were looking at the contrast between 1970 and 2010.
Yeah,
and so a 40-year change there.
Yeah, well, because they don't measure how we would measure trends. Mm-hmm. Financial trends are vastly different to measure, and that's how most of our trends are. It's based off of money or analytics. Yeah. But when you're looking at intelligence, how do you have to do a whole generation, and you have to see how, even having kids, how that would affect them.
And not only that, you have to factor in, like, anytime they do like one of those, this many Americans polled and this many Americans felt X, Y, and Z. Like, dude, if somebody hits me with a survey, that's like, how do you feel about the state of? I'm gonna skip that 99.9% of the time. Yeah. So those charts and graphics don't actually represent me.
No, that's called the silent.
You can only get those who are willing, and potentially only those who are willing feel a certain way. Absolutely. Or are only so passionate or overly passionate about any one topic.
And that's called the silent majority.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. It's like, would you like to talk about how you feel? No. I have business I have to do. I have family to spend. I'm not doing this, right? Yep. So the thing that I like most about when there is a study, from my understanding, when there's an academic study, they get access to all of the paperwork necessary to look at the trends. So they're not going, hey, Jimmy in first grade, I'm going to interview Jimmy every year for 40 years. They're going, here's all the information we have. How can we get the information and assess from test scores, cognitive reading levels, and those things? Because they keep track of those.
Yep.
So I just think it's fascinating. So here...
It is.
Let's see. Another aspect is technology may be protecting or enhancing certain aspects of cognitive performances. AI is a perfect example.
Say that again. Maybe
technology may be protecting or enhancing certain aspects of cognitive performance. So, like AI, for example, I'll give you. I reached out. I had some paperwork I had to do for my nonprofit, and so in the process of doing it, I reached out to a lawyer, and he goes, "Hey, I would love to help you. I need X, Y, and Z." And I went, "Okay." And he goes, if you've never filled them out before, they can be really confusing. Let me know if you have any questions. I said, when do you need them by? He goes, I need them by Friday. This is Wednesday. So I take the forms. I take his email, turn it into a PDF. I take the forms. I upload all of it into ChatGPT. And I said, can you help me satiate the question that he's asking in this email? Sure. Boom. Gave me the information. I copied and pasted it and sent it off to him. He goes, that's exactly what I needed. Thank you so much. So, awesome. Okay. So that totally was protecting my ignorance.
Cognitive decline. Exactly.
So, but I'm totally willing to.
Oh, sure.
Right? I'm not legal. I don't know the lawyer realm. No. I never went.
Or the jargon.
No. And it's like some of that stuff you get lost in the sauce real fast. Where you're like, oh my gosh. So I can totally see how it is protecting us. Like I can make myself look way more intelligent. Going, hold on, what'd you need to know? Oh, I would put this. Wow, you're so smart.
Yep.
Which is why I'm actually an advocate for kids not having Like, I love them having the ability for parents to reach out to the kids. 100%. Cell phones are important.
Sure.
But it changes the school system.
Yeah.
And there is that question of like, if Jimmy can send a text message without looking, you know he can look at a question, type it in, and just look down for an answer.
Oh, absolutely.
And now that Google has AI and everything built into it, what do you got right in front of you?
Correct.
I'm just...
that fast.
So this protecting or enhancing cognitive performances, I totally believe it. Like, I really do. Because we're getting better at asking the right questions to get to the answers we want.
Correct.
We're good at indexing, but knowing the information that's in the bro.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot there, man. I just feel that when we can get, speaking on the educational side, when we get the educational side, this is why there's such a big push for homeschooling right now and charter schooling right now. When we can get the education back to, and not fearing the computer, not fearing
not
fearing
at all.
that, because so much of my work is screen based, right? So much of many realms, working environments are digitized.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, right? Where once upon a time, everything from taking a mortgage application was printed and you fill it out right there with them. It's all digitized, right?
Yeah.
I'm sending that to a client's cell phone,
which is actually much easier.
Oh, 100% it is. Yeah. So we can't fear it. I think the biggest thing is to just, from an educational standpoint, if you allow kids to continue to be as tactile, kinesthetic, right? More hands-on than anything, you're growing a whole other side of their brain.
Yeah.
Whereas the digital side is going to happen organically.
No, it's naturally going to happen.
It's
absolutely.
Like, do we need my buddy who actually teaches computer at a local school may not like this, but do we need computer classes for those kids, or are they just going to kind of learn it via osmosis from being kids in 2024?
So,
right?
Okay. On that, because I agree with you. So on that,
sorry, man.
No, you're good. My kids, I never showed them how to use the iPad. Like, I never went through and showed them, here's how to delete an app. Here's how to add an app. I didn't show them any of that stuff.
Yeah.
They picked that up.
Quick.
They're like, oh, Dad, if you want to zoom in, you want, and because it's naturally, the way they designed it was quick adjustment.
Yep.
It's harder when you're stuck in your ways.
Correct.
To learn it. But if it's the first thing you know and everything's based off the same user interface, you start running into, if it does that, then it must do this. And so
learning on the job.
It is, I never had to show him that stuff. And so even when I was showing David some video editing stuff, and I said, hey, I will pay you to edit this slideshow. He goes, really? I said, I'm getting paid. I'll pay you. He goes, okay. So he sits there. I said, all right, here's what this does. He goes, oh, all right. Leave him there. 15 minutes later, he goes, hey, Dad, I found this way's quicker.
Oh.
And I looked at it, and I was just like, yeah, you're right. But you're missing this, right? But he actually did from seeing everything. And I didn't deep dive into the software.
Found a leaner, quicker way to do something.
He found, it could have, it cut corners, but it was good.
Yeah.
It wasn't great. And I was like, no, the reason we do it this way is because it looks better in this. Oh, okay, thanks, Dad. Right? But the fact that he was able to adapt that quick to something he'd never touched before.
Bro, the brain.
So
supercomputer.
So I think the trends are going to change because of how we see technology, but also how we use it.
Yeah, I see that.
And so to me, I'll read through a couple more of these and then we'll head to the one that I think is the most important.
No, sure.
The quality of education may have decreased. This is one of their things they're saying on why the ceiling. I want to say technology has a big play in that. Quality of education, I think it comes down to the individual. If you have somebody, if emotional intelligence is a higher form in this and it balances like your value system of why you're doing something, if that's at a decline, it doesn't necessarily matter how good your education is. Because if you're calloused and cold, like if you read World War II and you don't have a kind of an empathy and understanding of what's going on, it's just words. Yeah. And you're like, oh yeah, they killed whoever. Oh, they killed 200 people. Who cares? And you're like,
callous.
Oh, right. So I could see that. And then let's see, we'll do the last one
it's good to hear that they put more focus onto the emotional side, right? Because how much more important, I don't care how smart you are or how successful you are if you don't treat people like with dignity and respect and love and with a genuine like care for their well-being, dude. You're just going to end up being a shit person. No one's going to like you, and you're going to have like 17 degrees on your wall with no one to share them with because you completely lack empathy.
You know, you ever heard of the Marshmallow test?
No, but I'm willing.
So it's a test that they do. It's an awesome test. So it's a test that they do for kids to find out if they will be a leader. Like it's to see if they're going to succeed in life. And it's very simple. They put a plate in front of them and they put a marshmallow down. And they go, okay, I'm going to be back. Don't eat this marshmallow. If you eat the marshmallow while I'm gone, then that's it. But if you wait, I'll come in and give you another marshmallow. And they're like, I'll be back. They don't tell them when they're going to be back. They say, I'll be back. And then they sit in a room and they watch.
It is just like little kid like.
And
staring at it.
So the whole point is, can they push past that instant gratification and wait?
Yeah.
And they've proven most of the kids, it's a high stat, I don't remember off the top of my head, but most of the kids that go, no, it's fine, I'll wait, are successful in other parts of their life.
Bro,
because if you got a 6-year-old that's sitting there going, I'm not going to eat that marshmallow because I'm going to get another one later, and understands that.
Yep. It's the same kid who waits on that one marshmallow knowing a second's coming.
Yeah.
That's willing to save money, live at home through a junior college.
Yep.
To then eventually go on to a 4-year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
It's the patience, it's the long suffering, it's the let's let it suck a little bit now. No marshmallow.
Yeah.
For the reward later.
Precisely.
More marshmallows.
Well, and that's the generational wealth element. Everyone complains there's a decline in generational wealth, but that would, in my brain, that goes because our emotional intelligence is a decline.
Yeah.
Because we want it now. We're not willing to have any long suffering.
I know buddies that. So when I graduated Sac State,
I'm gonna pull up another. Keep going. I'm pulling up another article.
22 years old. I was still living at home, and I saved all that money that I would have spent.
Yeah.
At an apartment in Sacramento,
bro.
And all that money that I made because I worked my whole time through college.
Yeah.
I was able to go and then eventually buy an engagement ring.
Yeah.
And money for the apartment. And then I saved some of that for eventually my down payment on my house.
Yep.
I wouldn't have been able to buy the ring or get into my house had I spent all of that money living it up while I was 19, 20, 21, and 22 in Sacramento. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So the long suffering. And I remember conversations of like after, hanging out with friends after class or after rugby practice or whatever, like it being kind of a bummer, like, all right, they're going to go off to, their house and over there and they live on campus and all that. And I'm on 5 driving home to good old Yuba City. Like that part sucks a little bit. And I remember it sucking. And I remember like it being like, man, this is kind of lame. Hindsight being 2020, so glad that it did because I know buddies that have never been able to literally fiscally recover from all of the debt that they went into during literally those same years. And now they're in their 30s and they still carry X amount of fiscal, financial baggage, bondage, call it what you will.
No, absolutely.
From other pursuits.
Yeah.
So like allow yourself, and this is just that is so life applicable. It's not even funny, man.
Absolutely, man.
Sit there. Don't take the bait.
No.
When the single marshmallow is in front of you, know that there is more. Man, what's that? I need to go back, and it's one of our own quotes from early on in the show. We would say something similar. I'm botching my own something that I've said. The blessing is just beyond.
Oh yeah, just beyond not horizon.
No, it's like just beyond the patience, or the blessing is just beyond the. I'll have to go back and watch like episodes 1 through 5, and then you hit me in the comments. But when we can see the marshmallow, the single marshmallow, for what it is, or the internship for what it is, or the 2 years at the JC for what it is or what they are, knowing that there are greater things ahead, knowing that the reward is ahead, allow that to get you through that single marshmallow period of time in your life.
100%.
Whatever that is.
100%.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
Like whether it's working on, I remember the year that Hannah was opting to get her master's and she was working and we were like, man, we're going to have to drop down from 2 incomes to 1.
Yep.
We didn't have kids yet. And we're like, frick. It's really cool having 2 incomes and no kids. Like that's a great
for sure.
time, right?
Yeah.
But I remember us having that conversation and we're like, is it worth it? Yes, it will be worth it.
Absolutely.
Is it going to suck a little bit? Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we going to be single Marshmallow?
Yeah.
For a little bit? Yeah.
Absolutely.
But if you just think about the bag of freaking jet puffs that are going to plop on the table,
it's amazing.
But it teaches patience and long suffering, and you're better from it.
Yeah. No. And so, like, the emotional element is huge, and I don't think we talk about emotional intelligence because everyone will be like, well, I just feel people are getting dumber. It's like, well, you feel that because you're more judgmental towards people because you don't have as much compassion for them.
Yep.
So you're right.
Old dog.
Right. And so I all right. So here's
this
another.
generation's the worst. Bro, everybody has said that about the next generation since the beginning of
So this is an interesting one. This is on 6seconds.org. State of the Heart 2024, the world's largest study of emotional intelligence since 2011.
Nice.
The opening title right here.
Yep.
The data is clear. We've entered a global emotional recession.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. What's an emotional?
This is a new article?
This is a new article, yeah. 6seconds.org. I highly recommend going to look for it. I literally just typed in emotional intelligence, and this is one of the top reports that came up. Well, it's an emotional recession, like an economic recession, which reflects a significant drop in economic activity across an economy. An emotional recession is a sustained period of emotional depletion.
Sad.
During this time, individuals experience reduced emotional well-being, decreased motivation and empathy, and a lower capacity to cope with daily stressors. This results in a significant downturn in mental health and social engagement across the community or society.
And to chime in there, drug use,
Yep.
rampant.
Yep.
Suicide, rampant.
Yep.
Loneliness, I'm only going through this on my own, on an island, rampant.
Yep.
Negative self-talk, rampant. Ugh.
No.
What is the... I hope it gives a fix.
So,
Other than it just ends with Jesus.
Right. Well, I mean, the reality is, and even if we don't take Christianity as the forefront, faith does have an element.
100%.
Right? And so if you have no faith in anything, of course you're going to be more callous.
Yeah.
Right? That's just...
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Yep,
So,
100%. Keep going.
All right.
Sorry.
Unfortunately, this is the reality we're facing in 2024. Emotional intelligence and well-being scores have declined for 4 consecutive years. Okay? 6 Seconds CEO Josh Friedman says people are more volatile, less likely to be able to navigate emotions. They're less likely to feel connected to empathy or a bigger sense of purpose. They're less likely to be able to accurately understand and label the feelings they're experiencing, a crucial foundation for mental and emotional health. The good news is that emotional skills are measurable and learnable. Plus, the declines are not evenly distributed among subgroups and have started to increase. That shows us a path forward. So,
Bro.
If you're feeling like, hey, I feel like people are getting dumber, okay, let's talk about what you actually mean. So I pulled up right here, how is intelligence measured? So this was just with the Google AI. It talks about achievements. Achievement test measures what a person can do at the time of the test. So how people are actually can achieve things, finish things from start to finish. Aptitude, they can predict the future. They're able to look at anything. They're able to kind of go, which goes in that longevity. Basic IQ test, which is, again, like we were talking about puzzles and basic skills. And then emotional intelligence. So ultimately, if you can see a future that is good and you can perceive that and you can pursue that future, then you are going to be in a much better place.
You are enlightened.
Because you're seeing there's hope here. Like as soon as hopelessness becomes your cup,
correct.
Intellectually, you're on a decline, which is crazy. I never actually kind of put that element, but looking at what we're seeing,
that's cool.
Right? And knowing, and it's crazy because it's easy for us to be like, man, people are just dumb. It's like, no, they're not.
You're closing your own cognitive ceiling by feeling like that, by thinking that.
You're literally doing a prejudgment on everyone. And in that prejudgment, you're bringing a judgment back onto yourself because you're projecting a future.
Correct. Wow. That's deep there. So somebody literally breaks down their cognitive ceiling.
Correct.
Pokes a hole through their cognitive ceiling by being more optimistic about their own future.
Yep.
And the future, and having compassion of those around them.
But I like that there's achievement as well. So you have to have goals. So, I mean, think about this.
Yeah, not just being blindly optimistic, but having something to...
Fitness.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, all right, what's a realistic goal? We've talked about this on the show all the time. You don't need to shoot for 100%.
No.
If you're at 0, shoot for 1%. Shoot for 2. Shoot for 5.
100%.
Then every day add a little bit. And then you'll hit
take the macro goal down to the micro goal.
Precisely. So if we do the same thing for emotional, right? One of my favorite things, and I'm gonna go biblical here for a second, is something that Jesus says: all the laws are fulfilled except for these two. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. So have a foundational faith in God, and then love your neighbor as you love yourself. So the capacity of intelligence is based off of how much you love yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, you can't love your neighbor.
100%.
So that right there, knowing what we know, looking at the world through IQ and emotional IQ, we are limited by the amount of self-love we have, which makes sense why depression's at an all-time high and all these things. And so
the deepest factor there is the last 3 or 4 words, which is as yourself.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because that's the barometer in which we can love others. You can't intrinsically love unless you have it to give.
Yes.
Right? If I have no water to give you and you need water, I can't just manifest it.
Precisely.
I have to have some of my own to give.
You need to even have, not even just have some of your own, you have to have an excess.
Correct.
And
that's profound. I want to, how do we better explain that? Yeah, I want the viewers to come to that same realization.
So
if you're not loving yourself, or if you haven't found an ability to love yourself, how can you love others? And I would say, to play devil's advocate here, somebody would say, well, I love other people, but I have negative self-talk and all that. How does that person get past that?
Well, and I think that is
themselves more.
And that's why, remember, we've had multiple psychologists on here talking about needing somebody to talk to, because you're in your own echo chamber.
Yeah.
You have an idea, but if you don't share it with anybody, it's yours. It dies with you, right? If you have a problem or you feel like there's something going on, the real conversation here about the decline of intelligence, and this is why mental health, and we keep seeing all these studies and people talking about mental health all the time. But, and it's funny because when you can start, and I'm just kind of pulling together trends in my brain, right? But when I start seeing, you need to call me this is what I identify as, this is what I am, they're trying to use... Instead of loving themselves, they're expecting everybody else to love them. Yeah. And so it reverses the table.
Yeah.
So then you're expecting everybody to love you because you don't love yourself.
Yeah.
And then we're holding each other to these unrealistic expectations and then going, how dare you not fulfill me? Which creates more callous.
Correct.
Instead of coming from a place of self, okay, I'm comfortable with who I am. I know who I am. I know this is it. And so the best way to put it, if we're for the audience, if we haven't lost you,
I hope we haven't, because man, this is good stuff.
If we haven't lost you, this is how I'd say. You always heard the power of perspective. Mm-hmm. You can only see through your eyes.
Yeah.
If your eyes aren't in a place that you love yourself. So if you're seeing everything with a filter of, well, I feel this bad and everybody else has got to feel this bad and they suck and I hate that and that's awful and I don't like that. And you start resonating that and you're seeing everything that way.
Yeah.
Now, when you see somebody else talk to you and they go, hey, how's your day going? And you're like, they don't actually care how my day is going. Yeah. Now it's automatically, your filter's you've already set 100%. Up everything around you. And then if we add filter to filter to filter to filter, that totally makes sense why there would be an intellectual decline. because now you're literally placing all these filters onto somebody.
Yeah.
And then you're watching the decline happen. And so the way we get through that, what I would like positive steps, man, wake up in the morning and give yourself a break. Wake up in the morning.
Be kind to yourself.
You know, so I took some vocal lessons back in the day when I was doing the whole music rock band thing.
Thank God.
I know I needed them. It was bad. No, so I went to the vocal, and she told me this. It was crazy. She looked at me and she says, "Do you like yourself?" I was like, "Oh, I tolerate myself." She goes, No. You're wanting to sing, which means there has to be somewhere it's coming from. She's like, "I want you to go home. I want you to look at yourself in the mirror, and I want you to say 3 things. I want you to say, I like you, I accept you, and I want you to succeed." She said, "Look at yourself in the mirror and say that." This is my vocal coach.
Wow.
Because she said, look.
She went deep.
She's like, look, if you can't accept yourself, you can't accept your voice.
Wow.
That means no one else will want to hear you.
Wow.
Because it's got to come from a place.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, okay, bro, I cried like a baby.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
So anytime
the second you get in front of a mirror and you're just so grossly authentic with yourself, it's an emotional space.
And she said, don't look away. Look at your eyes. Acknowledge yourself. And so I have actually taken that in many different elements of my life. Or if there is a day where I'm feeling, I'll have a conversation with myself. I will look at myself in the mirror and be like, why do you feel that way? And just cry and weep and just whatever deep thing is in me, let it out.
So good.
Right? And it's not because if my singing voice was smashed, what about my regular voice? What about my internal voice? If I don't even listen to my internal voice and I feel like it's lying to me, and then you tell me something, I'm going to be like, well, his internal voice has to be lying to him as well.
Correct.
Why would I?
You won't be able to accept anything. And man, if we can get to a place, I hope somebody who's watching this right now is inspired, if in no other way, to love themselves.
Yes.
To love yourself. Because, I mean, there's so many of your own problems can be fixed and solved if you see value in yourself.
Yep.
Truly. There's no, you will love your family more if you love yourself. You will love your husband or your wife more if you love yourself. You will love your kids more if you love yourself. You will want to get up in the morning and better your family's environment and your own environment if you value yourself. Because if you have that self-love, which is not a bad thing, I feel like that's where people would say, oh, pride comes from self-love. If it literally just said to love others as yourself, it's notating that it is normal. That is part of it.
Exactly.
So if we can learn to love ourselves, or find an avenue to love ourselves, or seek a therapist and have the opportunity to offload what you need to in order to love yourself.
Or have coffee with a friend.
Mine's empty.
I still have some. There you
or have coffee with a friend to where you have the ability to offload what you're going through. My goodness, man, I hope that you seek that. I want that for you.
Yeah.
Joe and I want that for
100%.
I want this space. I want this show to uplift you, to empower you.
Absolutely.
To guide you, to allow you to become the best version of yourself. And if you're not there yet, you will be. Like one of my favorite quotes is, "It's never too late to make the rest of your life the best of your life."
Absolutely.
You are truly capable of that. And I think a lot of that honestly comes with learning to love yourself. And if you can learn to love yourself fractionally, marginally, little bit at a time, I would say it starts with negative. It starts with the dropping of negative self-talk.
Yep.
Give yourself a break. Like Joe said, give yourself a break.
Oh, yeah.
Wake up.
Yep.
Be kind to yourself. If you can learn to be kind to yourself, you can learn to like yourself. If you can learn to like yourself, you can learn to love yourself. And if you can love yourself, you can begin to love others.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I couldn't have said it better myself. It's kind of crazy when you start seeing the trends. It's like we all think, oh, we're getting dumber. But when you look at it and you look at the research, that emotional intelligence is 80%.
Yeah, it's wild.
Okay, we're talking about on average. I mean, you do have those savants, right? Those people that they may be 80% IQ, 20% emotionally.
Sure.
But I mean, you've seen the show Big Bang Theory.
Yep.
Sheldon's a perfect example. Somebody that's just so hyper intelligent that they can't read the room.
Correct.
And they're fun. Like they're naturally funny because they are saying things that we're like, I would never say that. I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings.
Sure.
Right? And you're like, oh, okay, that's funny for a couple times.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I don't want to be around this guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when you
emotional awareness.
Yeah. So I think that kind of comes down to, and this is just a thought on it. You ever heard of book intelligence and street intelligence?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, he's totally book smart.
Street smart?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, he's book smart. Oh, he's street smart.
Yeah.
One of the things, and these some of the best businessmen I know have the street smarts to them naturally because they're able to read the room and go, what do you actually care about? Because obviously what I'm talking about, and they just read the person. The person's like, okay, okay, let me tell you, this is my concerns.
Yeah.
And then right there, they're able to jump into business because they're solving the problem.
Exactly.
And so I think that we lean so much into, well, I just didn't remember what this stat or this said or this thing or this. And then you get hard on yourself. Well, I'm dumb because I didn't do the test right or I didn't get the highest grades or I didn't do the thing. It's funny because the people that I know that do some of the best work, it's effortless.
Yeah.
It's effortless because they're just being themselves.
Yeah.
And in the process of doing that, everything else balances itself out.
Yeah.
And a prospering society is one that has vision. But it doesn't come, like, I'm going to be real. We're in this polarizing situation. It doesn't come from the politics. It doesn't come from the city. It doesn't come from the county. It comes from you and your convictions going, I want what's best.
You, the people.
Right? And so that's where we always get lost because we start seeing, well, Russia this and China this and did you hear what happened in France? And it's like, stop, man.
Yeah.
You can only control what you can control.
Turn the news on.
Stop. Like, hey, you know what's probably better? Put on a movie you like.
Yeah.
I have go-to movies.
It will be better for your bro. we so rarely watch the news. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
And the other day, when I got home the last week, the vice president debate was on. So we were kind of watching it loosely and running around. I'd walk in, watch it for a couple minutes and loosely.
Yeah.
And then eventually turned it off. And, the night carried on, got the kids in bed and all that. The next evening when Hannah and I turned the TV on, hadn't been on since the prior evening.
Yeah.
We turned the TV on to watch an episode of Suits, what we're going through right now.
Yeah.
Love me some Suits.
Absolutely.
Turned the TV on and it was instantly like, news station this and this political candidate said this and da-da-da-da. And like literally I was like, oh my God. I'm not kidding, dude. It was like a portal of like negativity, like it opened up and I was just like, no. And I literally like scrambled to turn the TV back off because it was just, and it wasn't even like one side or another. It was just instantly just like people just bad-mouthing one another. And I'm like, so many people literally close their days with watching the news for an hour. Can you imagine the stress and the harm you're literally doing to your mind and your friggin' soul by consuming all of that
all the time?
And then someone say, oh, well, it's good to be in the know. No, not in that much no, because I promise you, you're not going to personally change a war in Israel or change a war in Ukraine.
Sure.
Or change a war in Africa or period. You're not.
Sure.
You're not. So there's a discretion or a level of understanding what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
And then there's some people that are just completely satiated by that. And like that's like their thing. And I'm like, gosh, you are causing yourself so much more harm than good.
Well, and it's because we live in an echo chamber, right? So if I can hear how bad somebody I don't agree with is, now I'm justified to hate them.
Yep. Exactly.
And then what
100%.
And what did we just talk about with the emotional intelligence and intelligence in itself? Now you're actually killing yourself. Like you're actively, and in the process, you're killing your own intelligence because if you can't have an empathy and compassion for people, there are moments, I will say to be very, very vulnerable, there is a determining factor in me that when I'm driving my car and I see a homeless person, if I'm like, oh my gosh, another homeless person, I go, time out. Where did that come from?
Check that.
Instantly. I'm like, what are you doing?
Got to check that.
Hey, that's not okay. They got a bad deck of cards. And every single time I like, that is like my barometer on. And I noticed when I'm into more news or I'm learning or I'm into something and I'm in a stressful situation, I instantly start seeing people in a negative light.
Yeah.
And because I'm emotionally stressed, I'm looking for a reliever. It must be that, right? And if hate is your cup,
yep,
and that's what your relief is, hate, then that's what you're putting out.
Yep. It's like whatever's in your cup is what's going to spill over when you get bumped.
So I just see how important it is. Like, what's the best thing you can do for your mental health? What's the best thing you can do for your intelligence? Give yourself a break.
And
Genuinely.
Give a break for those around you.
Yeah. Naturally, you'll end up doing that. So hopefully you got something out of this.
I got something out of this.
Like, I really
hope
do.
this wasn't just for me.
But
like,
if
it was,
that was amazing, man. It was
cut
amazing.
the tape. Don't give them this one. This is too good. No, I'm kidding.
So, throw in the comments. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. What are things? How do you check yourself? How do you see? I know some people, like when I worked at the grocery store, when I was there, I mean, back in high school, the barometer was, how do people perceive me? How when I'm saying hi to somebody, are they like, I need, and I'm like, whoa, because a lot of that, what you get back from somebody is what you're putting off.
Yep. 100%.
And at the hospital was the same way. If I noticed my day was I'm getting hit with a lot of hazardous conversations with people, is that what I'm putting off? And I had to take a moment, take a breath, listen to some tunes or something, and just take a moment and go, okay, all right. And then go, all right. And then apologize to myself. Hey, I'm sorry. There are things out of your control. You need to let it go. And have just a natural conversation with myself. But those are my barometers.
Yep.
And so I'm curious, if you have a barometer, there's something that you do that is like, hey, I notice, like, I get home from work and I'm sharp with my wife. Is that a barometer? Or how do I talk to my kids? That barometer. How I talk to my boss. How do I do? What is your barometer? And if you don't have one, I highly recommend getting one so that way you can kind of go, did I cross a line?
Yeah.
And do start self-analyze.
Hold yourself accountable.
But don't get hard on yourself being like, I need to be perfect tomorrow. No. Give yourself 1%, man.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to make a better choice tomorrow than I did today. Correct. I'm going to make a better cognitive moment for myself. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a break today.
Yeah.
So I'm
be
curious
kind.
thoughts.
Be kind to yourself. The magic is there. Be kind to yourself. Begin to love yourself, because the path to loving others is through loving yourself.
Absolutely.
Truly. Be kind to yourself. I love you guys. I love you. Cut.
Thank you for checking out the Cam and Joe Show.
If you guys are liking our content so far, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You can also listen to us on Spotify.